Do you remember what you were doing when you were just 11 years old? For most of us, that age was a perfect little bubble of innocence, a time when our biggest concerns were getting home in time to watch our favorite cartoons, or deciding which snack to trade at recess. It was a world of simple joys and minor heartbreaks, a world where the most profound emotion you could feel for a girl or a boy was a crush, without a single layer of the complicated, ugly reality that adulthood brings. For many, it's a memory of a time we didn't appreciate enough, when the biggest drama was losing a kickball game. It was a safe time, a happy time. But what if I told you there was a girl, just 11 years old, who was living in that same world, at that same age, who saw something else entirely? What if, while other kids were worried about schoolyard crushes and missed homework, this girl was planning something else, something brutal? This is not a story about childhood innocence lost. This is a story about a child who, it seems, never had it to begin with. This is the story of an 11-year-old Japanese girl who, on a Tuesday morning at a quiet elementary school in the city of Sasebo, planned and executed the murder of one of her best friends. She didn't use a toy or a stick. She took a utility knife and, in a locked classroom while her classmates were playing outside, she ended a life. Today, we're not going to try to romanticize this. We're not going to look for a soft, easy answer. We're going to examine a chilling psychological descent that turned a child into a cold-blooded killer. This is the real, deeply disturbing story of the girl known as Nevadatan. Her real name was Natsumi Tsuji, but that name is almost meaningless now. In the dark corners of the internet, she became immortalized as Nevadatan, a chilling alias she earned for the brutal nature of her crime and the sinister, grinning face she wore as a meme. From a very young age, there were whispers, warning signs that were dismissed or simply missed. The provided script notes a disturbing fascination with violence. This wasn't just a kid who liked action movies. This was a girl who was drawn to blood, to gore, and to the graphic, unsettling reality of violence that most children run from. She had a deep, almost clinical interest in things that should be anathema to a child, a true precursor to the horror she would one day unleash. But what pushes a child from fascination to action? The catalyst was something so common, so mundane, that it makes the outcome all the more horrifying. It wasn't a deep-seated grudge or a years-long rivalry. It was a digital spat, a petty, insignificant dispute on an online message board, the kind of place where kids go to argue about their favorite things. Natsumi had a disagreement with her best friend, Satomi Mitarai, over comments that were posted about her online. Think about that for a moment. In the digital world we all inhabit, a minor disagreement can be forgotten with a single click. A few words exchanged in a chat room, a comment left on a message board. It's nothing. It's less than nothing. And yet, for Natsumi Tsuji, that insignificant online friction became the spark that ignited a real-world inferno. The feeling of being insulted, of having a few bad words written about her, words that most people would ignore, was enough to send her down a dark path. This wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't a sudden, violent outburst. This was a response disproportionate to the offense in a way that should make your skin crawl. A few words on a message board became the motive for a planned, methodical act of ultimate betrayal. A petty digital squabble became a brutal, violent, real-world horror. And at the center of it was an 11-year-old girl who, from the look of things, was already lost to a darkness far deeper than her years. It's a regular Tuesday morning at the Okubo Elementary School in Sasebo. The year is 2004. On the third floor inside a classroom, two girls are talking. One is Natsumi Tsuji, the other her friend Satomi Mitarai. They're alone, and to anyone walking by, it would seem like a simple private conversation between two friends. But this is not a conversation. This is the final scene of a psychological horror. Natsumi Tsuji had a plan. She had with her a utility knife, the kind you would find in a craft kit, a tool for cutting paper, for school projects, now repurposed for something unimaginable. What happens next is a testament to the sheer, unblinking darkness of the human mind. Even a young one. Natsumi asked her friend to sit down, to close her eyes, and to look away, a request that, in any other context, would be a part of a game a surprise. But in this moment, it was a sadistic preamble, a moment designed to create vulnerability and to break the illusion of trust just before the real horror began. Natsumi cut her friend's throat and arm. She cut her friend's throat multiple times, then followed up with wounds on her arm. This was not a simple, panicked strike. This was a deliberate, violent execution. She then used a towel to staunch the blood flow. Why? Not out of a moment of panicked remorse, but to prevent the blood from soiling the carpet, so grotesquely detached from the act of murder that it serves as a stark warning about the psyche of the person who committed it. The focus was on the cleanliness of the room, not the life she was taking. After the act was done, she left the room and walked back to class calmly, as if nothing had happened. A teacher, a substitute, saw her, and she gave no sign of the horror she had just unleashed. This isn't the reaction of a child in shock or remorse. It is the cold, emotionless postmortem of a psychopath. She later said she did it because she did not like the way Satomi was talking about her on the internet. That is the entire shocking motive. A small, insignificant online disagreement was deemed worthy of a brutal, violent, bloody end. The silence of the classroom, the single, devastating act, and the calm departure of the killer tell us everything we need to know. It's a narrative that goes beyond true crime and delves into a terrifying question. What do we do with a mind so broken, so fundamentally wrong at such a young age? A mind that can look at a best friend and see an obstacle to be removed, a problem to be solved with a knife. The brutality of this crime isn't just in the blood, it's in the lack of emotion, the chilling premeditation, and the casual, almost bored way it was carried out. It is a defining moment, not just in the history of crime, but in the disturbing history of how the internet can create monsters where we least expect them. This wasn't just a schoolgirl murder. This was a digital spat turned into a physical act of depravity. And that, more than anything, is what makes the nevadatan case a true horror story. The sheer brutality of the crime, as we've just discussed, would be enough to make it infamous. But in a world where nothing is allowed to stay a tragedy, where every horror is quickly monetized and turned into content, the story of nevadatan didn't just end in that empty classroom. It was just getting started. Her case became a bizarre and macabre online phenomenon. The name nevadatan was a moniker born from this digital fascination, not from any legal document. Why? Because the internet, in its twisted way, found a certain morbid irony in her story. An 11-year-old in a school uniform, a child with pigtails, committed an act of unimaginable violence. And the internet, instead of recoiling, did what it always does. It created a meme. Across forums and image boards, drawings of her began to appear. Fan art. Think about that for a second. An innocent act, the act of drawing a character you admire, was repurposed to celebrate a child killer. They created stylized, almost cutesy versions of her, holding the very knife she used, and they turned a real, violent death into a piece of morbid entertainment. They designed merchandise, posters, and animations all centered around this horrific moment. The name nevadatan became a secret handshake in the darker corners of the web, a shorthand for a truly unsettling antisocial fascination. It was a clear, chilling example of how the internet consumes and fetishizes tragedy, not just turning it into news, but turning it into a grotesque caricature. A real person's life and death became nothing more than a source of aesthetic inspiration for a community of the morbidly curious. And now, for the final, most unsettling question of all, where is she now? Her current whereabouts are a great mystery. The Japanese legal system handled her case as it was designed to. With a juvenile offender, she was sent to a reformatory. But what happens after? After her time was served, she would have been released back into society. The system is designed to give a second chance, to believe in rehabilitation, even for a child who committed such a heinous act. But what if they don't get better? What if the psychological breaks that led to this crime are permanent? We are left to wonder. Did she truly get better? Was the treatment successful? Or is she, now a woman in her 30s, still harboring the same darkness? Will she ever do something like this again? These are questions with no answer, only an unsettling silence. The name Natsumi Tsuji may be lost to obscurity, but her alias, nevadatan, remains as a permanent scar on the digital record. And with that, I've been Hammond Terry. Thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.